What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for July 7th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Sunday edition of the podcast. Another steamy day in the area. Yesterday was just brutal. It's hot and humid everywhere, even down in Atlanta. Tough one for the Phillies yesterday, 5-1. They lost. And I know some people were concerned about Ranger because it's his second straight non-quality start, so to speak. But I don't know how much he struggled yesterday, or it was more just the Braves hitters really just made some good swings. Like, it started with the Ozuna home run, and that was a great pitch that, I mean, and all of a sudden you're in a 3-0 hole. Great pitch. He went down low and got it, and the ball was just carrying. Even on the first hit, that the ground rule double, that thing just kept carrying and carrying. So it's definitely worth monitoring. Luckily, we're near the All-Star break, so there is going to be some time off, but I'm not raising the cause for concern flag yet. But I am going to keep an eye on this. But I think, I mean, that was just, you take away that, and all of a sudden it's a 2-1 game. And that, like I said, that was a hell of a swing. He's a great player. And that ball just kept carrying. So we'll hit the pause button so far on the concern and the panic, I guess, for Ranger. And the offense didn't really contribute much. So it's hard to really, he probably was pushing and felt like he had to do more because the offense went 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position again. Could only muster up one run. I think they said something crazy on the broadcast. It was only the 25th time all year that the Phillies have been held to 4 runs or less, or 3 runs or less, something crazy. So it was just one of those nights. Again, nothing yet to be concerned about, but let's come back and win this series today. Michael Mercado is on the mound. I want to see him continue to do well. Maybe that'll be our hidden gem that can slide into that 5th spot, because Turnbull's out until August, I think, and Tawan Walker is Tawan Walker. So if Mercado can step in there, I'm all for it. But there is some good news on the horizon. Bryce was testing out his hamstring, did well. Apparently he's going to run the bases again today to see how it goes. He is slated, I think, it's looking like the A's series, but Rob Thompson has said when he's ready, he's going to return. So he's eligible starting Tuesday. So he should be returning this week. Looks like Schwarber will be back on Tuesday. And JT is still, I haven't heard anything one way or the other, but he, any day now, as soon as he's ready, he can come back as well. So help is on the horizon. Let's go out today, win this series, and hopefully maybe, let's get some of our balls to carry that way, the way the Braves had theirs to carry yesterday. But they look to win that series this afternoon with Michael Mercado going on the mound. I've been telling you about the John Kruk is my spirit animal shirt at Philly Goat. Go check it out. 10% of your sales proceeds, or 10% of your sales goes directly to the Battle Brothers Foundation. They do great things for our vets. And I have to tell you, the shoes, check out the canvas loafers they have. I've been wearing them all weekend, rotating my pairs through. Great on the feet. And I mean, I've been on my feet a lot, so very easy. And if you're worried, even though because of the heat, I told you about those little barely cover your foot socks that help feet sweat. No, it was perfect. Go check it out, phillygoat.com. Get the John Kruk is my spirit animal shirt. Get some shoes, and don't forget to use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com, promo code Jim Montgomery for 10%. Another big Sixers signing. Caleb Martin signed a 4-year, $32 million contract to come to the Sixers. This is a great signing, a ridiculous signing. He's an average offensive player during the regular season. He only averages like 10 points or whatever a game. But he is money in the playoffs. He's a Celtics killer. And you can kind of see now the direction that Daryl Morey and they want to go with this team as far as what they're building. They're looking long term. They're not looking to get to the playoffs. They're really trying to get guys in there and pieces that are going to fit around. The thing I like about Caleb Martin is too, he's versatile on defense, so he can pretty much guard any of the 4 positions. And that's Nick Nurse sometimes likes to play a smaller lineup. So Caleb Martin slides right into that role. But again, I like this move more for the regular season. Obviously, it's going to help when Joe's not. And that's the other thing, the focus I've noticed. They're looking for the playoffs, but they're also looking for when Joe is not on the court. They have guys now that are going to be able to carry the load. So Caleb Martin certainly is going to be able to guard some people, maybe provide some points while Joe is on the bench. But this is definitely, I think, a move geared toward the playoffs. And I think this unexpectedly, to be honest, I didn't expect this. So to get that, I'll gladly take it. It looks like now your starting lineup is probably going to be Maxey, Paul George, Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, and Joe. But now you have that flexibility that Nick Nurse, who likes to play the smaller lineup sometimes, he has some flexibility to move some guys around and do some creative things and basically just let him cook. So I really, really like this signing a lot. I think it's a good fit not only for the regular season, but more importantly, that the postseason. And he is a Celtic killer. And if you're going to have to get past the Celtics, why not get somebody who is good at beating the Celtics? B-ball Paul George or Paul Reed. Yeah, Paul Reed, not Paul George. B-ball Paul Reed. I couldn't read my own writing. I put the wrong name down. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Paul Reed is the odd man out. He's going to be waived, and I'm okay with that. It is kind of is what it is. But now I think the Sixers need a backup point guard. Is Kyle Lowry that guy? Probably could use a bigger power forward. Maybe a Marcus Morris. That's who they were kicking the tires on. There's still probably like two minor moves that I want to see them go make. But Daryl Morey is having himself an off season, taking a page right out of Howie Roseman's book, and I'm all for it. He's given Nick the pieces that he can just cook. I'm so excited, and I take back any bad thing I said about Daryl Morey. And again, Daryl, I apologize. Hopefully, you will forgive me. All right, the Union didn't lose. They didn't score either, but it was a 0-0 tie, and the game itself didn't really matter. That was the after story. Tons of protests from the fans, the Sons of Ben's, a couple of the different groups calling for the team to sell. The team was confiscating signs. It's getting ugly down in Chester. Give the team some help. What a quick turnaround from being in the MLS final to being almost in last place in the Eastern Conference within 2 years. But more on this as it progresses. The team hasn't really issued any statements, so I'm anxious to see as we go through this week, because as it goes, these protests and everything are getting more and more intense, calling for the team to be sold, get the guys some help. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the coming weeks. And I missed this the other day. I read an article yesterday on Denver Barkey and Oliver Bonk for the Flyers, the two guys that are playing in the OHL together for the London Knights. And it just talked, and the future is so bright. It talked about just their chemistry they have. They've been playing together since they've been 16. So it talked about that and how on the ice they're good and how they have that chemistry. But then they actually are very good friends off the ice. So I really like the direction, and it was a very complimentary article, and like these guys are close to being ready to come up to the Flyers, so you pair them with Mishkov. Like, the future is so bright for the Flyers, and I keep saying this, but jump on the bandwagon now. All right, today we are going to go back to 1964, and on this day in 1964, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game took place up in Shea Stadium. The 1964 Phillies were well represented. You might remember what happened to them when Chico Ruiz stole home and just set off an unfathomable chain of events that just had them blow a 6-game lead with 12 games left. But at this point, it was sort of the high point of that season for the Phillies. They sent 3 players to the All-Star game. Jim Bunning, who was making his 8th appearance, Johnny Callison making his 3rd, and an All-Star rookie, Chris Short making his first All-Star game. And all three, as fate would have it, played a pivotal role in the outcome of this game. Short, when he came in to pitch, the National League had a 3-1 lead in the top of the sixth. Short went 1 inning, gave up 2 runs to allow the American League to tie it. He gave up 3 hits. He gave up singles to Mickey Mantle and Harmon Killebrew. No shame in that right there. And then a 2-run, 2-out triple to Brooks Robinson. Again, no harm, no foul there. But that was his stint in his first All-Star game. Jim Bunning then pitched the 4th and the 5th after Don Drysdale. Went 2 innings, gave up 2 hits, had 4 Ks, and was his normal solid self. And then Johnny Callison came in to pinch hit for Jim Bunning in the 5th. Callison ended up going 1 for 3 in the game, but ultimately became the hero because in the bottom of the 9th, he had a 3-run walk-off home run for the National League, scored Curt Flood and Johnny Edwards ahead of him. And the National League won the game 7-4. And it was the first walk-off home run in the All-Star game since 1941, since Ted Williams did it. And it also was the last time it's happened. Believe it or not, there's been no walk-offs in the All-Star game since. There's been a lot of big hits, a lot of excitement and drama, but no walk-offs since Johnny Callison hit the game-winning walk-off 3-run shot in the bottom of the 9th in 1964. Obviously, he won the MVP for his heroics. And like I said, this was probably the high watermark for the 64 Phillies as it just, I mean, they remained in first place till September, but then it just exploded on them. But on this day in 1964, Johnny Callison hit the walk-off 3-run homer in the All-Star game to win it for the National League 7-4 in a game where Jim Bunning and Chris Short also represented the Phillies well. And a little extra nugget, I guess you could say, for this one. The leadoff hitter for the American League that day was one Jim Fergozzi, who played shortstop for the American League. He went 1 for 4 with an RBI himself. So a little bonus all-star trivia for you. All right, let's get into the Ultimate Philly Sports Nickname Tournament, and let's recap yesterday's matchups. And both of our winners won by the same identical margin. In the cheesesteak region, it was the Legion of Doom beating Pat the Bat with 67% of the vote. And in the Ben Franklin region, it was the Big Piece knocking off Bruiser Flint with 67% of the vote. Lots of feedback on Pat the Bat. Nobody really I didn't know it. I know a lot of people that reached out to me didn't know that Pat the Bat had nothing to do with baseball. It was because he was nocturnal. So who knew? But it's the Legion of Doom and the Big Piece moving on in the tournament. First round should be wrapping up on Tuesday, I think, is when we'll wrap up. And then Wednesday we will start the second round. But today we have 2 more matchups. The first one out of the Balboa region, we have the number 5 seed Weapon X taking on the number 12 seed Iggles. And let's start with Weapon X. I mean, not much needed to be said here. Brian Dawkins is one of the GOATs in Philly sports history. He's one of the GOATs in NFL history. He was a second-round pick of the Eagles in 1996. Spent 13 years in Philly before signing with the Denver Broncos. In Philly, though, he was a 4-time All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler. He was on the NFL All-2000s team. He's in the Eagles Hall of Fame. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. His number 20 is retired by the Eagles. He was on the Eagles 75th anniversary team. He had that amazing game against the Texans. I think he was the only one to ever do this, where he had a fumble recovery, an interception, a sack, and scored a touchdown on a fake punt. Again, not much. He was the leader, the vocal heart and soul, whatever you want to call it, of that Eagles defense back then. And the origin of his nickname, pretty straightforward. Wolverine from the X-Men. His code name was Weapon X due to his relentless aggression. And I think that's the perfect summation of the way Brian Dawkins played the game. Relentless aggression. And I've heard so many people say he's the only person that could ever curse you out without saying a curse word. So Weapon X is our number 5 seed out of the Balboa region. Definitely a sleeper in this region. And then the number 12 seed, the Iggles. And that is just a slang name for the Eagles. And it's, you take into account the Philly accent, which is, to me, it's funny because I grew up about an hour outside of Philly, but my mom, my grandmother, my uncle, like everybody, they still say the Iggles. And I never got it, and it's just one of those things. As Philly fans, we just embrace it. There's websites inside the Iggles, Philly Goat. If you want to look, they have a ton of Eagles stuff. So it's a great nickname for the Eagles, and one of those things that's a little bit of Philly charm. So it's your turn now. Which is the better Philly sports nickname? Is it Weapon X for Brian Dawkins, our 5 seed, or is it the 12 seed, the Iggles, the slang South Philly Delco pronunciation of Eagles? Get your vote in 267-495-8531. That'll get you in on the Back to the Future voice and text line. Leave me a voicemail, send a text message. Get that and anything else Philly sports related off your chest. But who do you got? Weapon X, Brian Dawkins, or Iggles, the nickname, the slang nickname for the Eagles? Get your votes in. You can hit me up on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever you got to do. Email me, text me, whatever. Send a carrier pigeon over to my house if you have to. But who do you got out of the Balboa region? Weapon X versus Iggles. And then our other matchup is a pretty... I'm anxious to see which way this one plays out. In the Schuylkill region, we have the number 7 seed, Dirty Waters, taking on the number 10 seed, Tug. Let's start with Dirty Waters. Andre Waters. It was an undrafted free agent for the Eagles in 1984 out of Cheney, so he went to college locally as well. He's on the Eagles' 75th anniversary team. 10 years in Philly, 10 fumble recoveries, 15 interceptions, 2 career touchdowns. Known more for just being a hard-hitting free safety and just sometimes he pushed the boundaries and pushed the limits somewhat. He is, for a period of time, there was what was known as the Andre Waters rule, where the defense couldn't hit the quarterback below the waist while he was in the pocket due to the way Andre Waters would come in. I think he had the hit on Jim Everett that led to that rule. The origin of his nickname, it was borderline. His play, very aggressive, pushed the envelope a lot on between whether it was a dirty hit or not. But that played well into the way his style of play, and that defense gave them an edge. He was very intimidating. Guys were scared sometimes to go over the middle. And I think it was all a psychology game for Andre Waters. But the nickname Dirty Waters came from Dan Deerdorf on Monday Night Football in a game against the Vikings. Apparently, Waters went after Rich Gannon's knees. Deerdorf lost it and said Dirty Waters, and he's a cheap shot artist. And I do think, like I said, he didn't change the way he played, and it fit his role. So it was very, like the name, whether or not he was dirty all the time, which he wasn't, that was in the back of people's other teams' minds. So I think he played the role, played the villain perfectly, and he is our 7 seed out of the Schuylkill region, Andre Dirty Waters. And then the number 10 seed is a fan favorite, Frank McGraw Jr., also known as Tug. He was traded to the Phillies by the Mutts in 1974. Spent 10 years in Philly, 94 saves with a 49-37 record, a 3.10 ERA. The hero of the 1980 World Series. Maybe not the hero, but the everlasting image is of Tug jumping up and Mike Schmidt coming in and everything. Coined the phrase "you gotta believe" when he was with the Mets. Brought it over to Philly, and a lot of Philly fans still will say "you gotta believe." Interesting origin to this nickname, though. He was nicknamed Tugger by his mom because he was an aggressive breastfeeder. And the name just stuck. He preferred Tug and even asked like his kindergarten teacher to call him Tug. So this became more of a lifelong nickname for him, all because his mom said he was an aggressive breastfeeder. But again, now it is your turn. Who wins out of the Schuylkill region? Dirty Waters or Tug? And then out of the Balboa, we have Weapon X and Iggles. So get your votes in. Let me know what you think. 267-495-8531. That'll get you in on the Back to the Future tech voice and text line. Get that and anything else Philly sports related. Still, some people have some parties today. Spread the word about the podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let's get those subscriber numbers up. Jimbo_Mont. But today we have two great matchups. First, out of the Balboa region, number 5 seed Weapon X taking on the number 12 seed Iggles. And then out of the Schuylkill region, the number 7 seed Dirty Waters is taking on the number 10 seed Tug. Who do you got? What is the better Philly sports nickname? Get those votes in. On this day in 1964, Johnny Callison won the MVP of the All-Star game when he hit the game-winning walk-off 3-run homer in the bottom of the ninth to win it for the National League. Let me know your thoughts on Caleb Martin. I am a huge fan of this move. I think they're going all in, and I really do think because I know a lot of you out there were just like me. I think we owe Daryl Morey an apology because he's really, and again, could all blow up in the face. That's perfectly fine. He's making the right moves, pushing the right buttons, and I, for one, will lead the charge. Daryl, I'm sorry. I was too hard on you. So let's keep it rolling. Give me a backup point guard, maybe another big power forward off the bench, and I will be happy. Let's get this season started. Be safe out there. It's going to be hot. I think the humidity is supposed to go down, but make sure you're drinking plenty of water. Enjoy your day. Spread the word about the podcast and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get your votes in for the nickname tournament. But more importantly, go have yourselves a Sunday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for July 7th, 2024. I'm Jim Montgomery, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.